As a former bartender, I love cocktail videos and social media posts, but I've seen some misinformation and improper techniques that could ruin your reputation as a good host and your home bar guests' experience. Hello and welcome to the Sunken Compass, my home bar. I'm Angela, your haunted hostess and creator of Pretty Spooky, which is a lifestyle brand and the grown-up's guide for how to create Halloween fun year-round. Since Tiki feels like the grown-up version of Halloween, I find ways to reduce its sugary impacts to keep the fun going year-round for my home bar guests and myself. So with these 10 tips, I'll share my low carb on the high seas zombie recipe with you to demonstrate ways to improve your guest experience and to save you from being embarrassed to death. Tip number 1, let's start with a mistake that I've made. Know your limitations. Never ask a home bar guest, what's your poison? A professional bartender at an establishment has an endless supply of booze, brands, mixers, and garnishes, and has hundreds of recipes memorized. A home bartender is likely to have some limitations in ingredients, equipment, and experience. I asked one of my first guests at the Sunken Compass what type of tiki drinks they like. My guest didn't have much experience with classic tiki, and I live in a tourist area, therefore beachy resort-type cruise drinks came to mind. Frozen strawberry daiquiri was the request. I apologized I didn't have any mix prepared and asked for a second choice. Frozen pina colada or margarita were the runners-up. I explained that I didn't usually make frozen drinks, but I could get the blender from the kitchen. My guest politely settled for a margarita on the rocks, which melted more and more with each pretend sip. That mortifying experience inspired me to create my low carb on the high seas drink menu, complete with pictures and descriptions of 12 cocktails that I like to drink, and I'm prepared to whip up at any time, ranging from sparkling, fruity, spicy, or creamy, and sweet, with a danger rating of 1 to 3 skulls. I'm not saying that all home bartenders need to take it to this extreme, dedicating weeks to respecking recipes and creating a formal menu. Just know what you have on hand and what you're capable of making, and ask your guests if they would like X or if they prefer Y. That will limit your embarrassment and their disappointment. Tip number 2, shallow and icy don't mix. While personality does matter, I'm talking about using proper glassware. I've seen Pinterest posts showing ice and straws in martini glasses. While some might think it looks sort of cute on their mom blog, this sloshy, sweaty mess is waiting to drip all over your guest. These are meant to be up glasses for 3 main reasons. First, there's not enough room in the smaller stemware for ice and a satisfying amount of liquid. Second, these shallow shaped glasses are too sloshy when ice is added, and the straw will fall into your guest's lap. Third, the stemware is frequently made of thinner, more delicate glass, not rugged enough for clanking cubes. If you're unsure of which glass to use, just do a quick search for a glassware guide on a reputable culinary retailer site, or just remember drinks in shallow stemware are meant to be served chilled and strained, sans straw, no ice. And speaking of ice, that brings us to tip number 3. Shake it, don't break it. You may or may not know the song, but for all of the videos out there on proper shaking technique, I've never once seen anyone mention to face the opening of the shaker, whether it's Boston or cobbler style, away from your guests and toward yourself. It might seem like common sense, but I've seen too many non-pro home bartenders forget about keeping the small tin towards themselves while worrying about how cool they look affecting the proper whip shake method, trying to remember that awkward smile. Meanwhile, their guests are unknowingly sitting in the splash zone. So don't do that. Keep the small tin towards yourself. Personally, I like to shake mine over my shoulder with the opening facing behind me. Just in case the suction breaks, I won't get quite as messy. I just have to deep clean my back bar. But shake it however you like and make whatever face you want, as long as the drink gets cold and your guests stay dry. Tip number 4, don't get handsy behind the bar. No, I don't mean that type of handsy, but that type of handsy could be a problem too. What I mean is keep your hands off the top of the glass and the ends of the straw, and by all means, Don't use your hand as a funnel to direct the ice. And I shouldn't even need to mention this, no licking your fingers, ever. When making someone else's drink, only touch the bottom half of the glass, only touch the center of the straw, and as little as possible, have a proper ice scoop and either a bar mat or a kitchen towel to catch any stray cubes. And if you'd enjoy it a snack in between rounds, have a way to sanitize before getting back behind the bar. And speaking of cleanliness, that brings us to tip number 5. Don't be a toxic stinker. To clean or not to clean? That is the question. Because there are so few non-toxic, food-safe cleaners, some home bartenders might be tempted to wait until the party is over to clean up. Plus, many cleaning solutions have overpowering odors that would ruin the party. That is why I keep a spray bottle with the cheapest white rum infused with a few lemon peels and allspice berries to keep things clean, tidy, and safe at the Sunken Compass. And speaking of lemon peels, that brings us to tip number 6. Don't get goofy with garnishes. If you've seen my video for the Saturn and the scary cherry on top, which you should go watch right after this, then you already know that I'm very particular about my garnish for this drink for a few reasons. So I'll use my Saturn as an example. First, I refuse to skewer strips of citrus peel wrapped around a cherry because my homemade Luxardo cherries are so good that I don't want to have to reconstruct layers of messy peels to enjoy it. And neither should my guests. Second, I've seen this drink garnished with lime, which makes no sense since there's no lime in the recipe and the lime peel isn't edible, therefore adds nothing to the flavor or fragrance of the drink like mint does in a zombie. Garnishes are supposed to either visually advertise the flavors of the drink in an attractive way or add to the cocktail in fragrance, flavor, or theme, like an expressed orange peel in an old-fashioned, olives in a martini, or a paper parasol in a tropical cocktail. A lime garnish on a Saturn serves none of these purposes, so in my book is inefficient and wrong. Have fun with garnishes, as long as it makes sense for the drink, and while we're on the topic of garnishes. Tip number 6A is decorate before you celebrate. No good host would invite guests to a soiree and make them wait outside while they finish decorating the venue. And no good bartender would fiddle with the garnish after the drink is made, so prep the garnish first. That way your guest isn't watching their drink get watered down while you play Spank the Mint or Chase the Cherry. And when it comes to garnishes, tip number 7, be trashy. Consider ahead of time how you will dispose of the remaining ice separately from the garnishes, especially if you're refilling glassware for the same guest. Even if you have a wet bar equipped with a sink, you'll want a colander or a strainer over the sink or the bucket to allow ice to melt through to be dumped later, keeping the garnishes and coasters and napkins separate for the trash bin or the recycling. Nothing is worse than having a sink full of garnishes or a heavy sloshy trash can full of soggy napkins to drain later. Regarding napkins, tip number 8 is stick the landing. Trying to decide between napkins or coasters for your home bar? Get both. Stemware lands better on a cocktail napkin, whereas rocks, Collins, swizzles, and pint glasses, and most tiki mugs sit better on flat, absorbent coasters. But if you have to choose just one, get a cocktail napkin and have some salt on hand to keep your rocks, pints, swizzles, and mugs from sticking. Tip number 9 is don't captain a ship of fools. Unless you are comfortable with guests pouring anything they'd like, however they'd like, be very clear about who's permitted behind your bar. At the Sunken Compass, it is extremely close quarters behind the bar, and not too many sailors would be comfortable at the helm of this tiny ship. Not even my first mate goes behind my bar unless his help is requested. So if necessary, lay down the ship's rules to any overambitious guests. And tip number 10, end it on a high note. Just like Seinfeld should have done, Know when is a good time to bring things to a close. Step away from the bar, stop serving guests, and let the party come to a safe and happy conclusion. A smooth way to do this is to distract guests with snacks and a pitcher of something non-alcoholic placed a little further from the bar so guests can serve themselves while you clean up, put away your tins, and give that bar that closing time kind of feeling. As mentioned in tip number 1, I've created an entire menu of low-carb drink options based on original tiki recipes and classics from the past for several reasons. And while there isn't too much that's healthy about any cocktail, every little bit helps. So wherever I can, I cut the carbs but keep all the flavor. And I call this my low-carb on the high seas approach to tiki cocktails. The Sunken Compass guest menu describes the zombie cocktail as a trio of rums paired with a trio of citrus, including cinnamon, grapefruit, brown sugar, and absinthe, garnished with fresh mint and a smoldering cinnamon stick. The bartender's menu shows the recipe for the low carb on the high seas zombie as 1/2 ounce lime juice, 3/4 ounce lemon juice, 1/2 ounce grapefruit rum, 1/2 ounce cinnamon grapefruit rum, 1/2 ounce absinthe. I like lucid absinthe in this recipe, but local stores are currently out of stock. 1/2 ounce OFTD rum or other blended dark rum. Bar spoon, brown sugar, swerve, shake in a tin with plenty of ice, pour into a mug, and then add more ice. Garnish with a straw, mint, and a smoldering cinnamon stick. If you try the recipe, let me know what you thought and how it went in the comments. I'd also love to hear which of these 10 tips you wish more home bartenders knew. I loved being your haunted hostess. You were a wonderful guest. You're welcome back always. Farewell until next time. Cheers. Put away tins and give that ball so guests can serve them. So with these 10 tips, I'll show. Let's try it again. Frozen strawberry daiquiri was the regret. My guest politely settled for a margarita on the rocks and asks your guest. Shallow. Tip number 2. Tip number 2, shallow and icy don't mix. Okay, hit my head. To face the opening of the shaker away from yourself. Away from yourself. I'm sorry, let's try that again. Away from yourself. Not away from yourself, toward yourself. The ice into the glass while scooping. And I shouldn't even need to mention this. Have a proper ice scoop. Garnishes. Wow, this is tough. You'll want a colander or strainer. Trying to decide between napkins or coasters for your home bar? I probably should have a coaster in my hand for this. Love a fresh package of napkins. Yeah. Trying to decide between cocktail napkins or coasters. This is so awkward. Stick number 8. Trying to decide between napkins or coasters. Stemware lands better on a cocktail napkin, whereas get cocktail napkins and have a salt. I am not prepared for this shot. This is crazy. Tip number 10. Ooh, hello. I hate that. That's so weird.